Hello, I'm Ron Miscavige, and this is another episode of Life After Scientology. And we have our guest back this week for the culmination of this story and to tell about her escape. Before I get into that, let me do a little bit of business first. First of all, if you're not a subscriber, if you would please do so and hit that bell so that when we have a new video, you get a notification so you can see all the videos that we're doing, even the other ones that I do, like story time and life lessons and things. Now, if you want to help with the ongoingness of this program, and I appreciate it if you would do that, just go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com, and you can see how you could become a Patreon or do a one-time donation on PayPal. Anyway, all that information is there. All the business out of the way. Now, let's continue on with the story because as the last episode ended, we were going to go into the escape, and I changed my mind because I wanted to give this priority because this is really unique how Sarita pulled this off. She was 16 years old at the time. And remember, the international base in Hemet, California, or they call Gold, was highly secure. You had to go through a locked gate. They had barbed wire fences, uh, sensors, as if there was any motion on any part of the base, they'd see it. And to get out of there was, man, I'll tell you, that was no easy feat. And there was a gentleman who ended up, and I'm not going to go any further than that. So, good morning, Sarita.
Good morning. Thanks for having
Okay.
me back. I'm excited to finish up the story. I have to say, starting this with you, 2 episodes ago, I have not slept since, and I know that this is one of the reasons why it's important to tell people what happened because I've just had nightmares. I had a nightmare 2 days ago about being at the base. And, I haven't thought about being at the base. That was tucked away, that's something put away. You just don't, those weren't fun things. So anyways, I'm glad to be able to share this because I know that it's probably still happening and it for sure happened to me. And that's the thing I appreciate about what you're doing.
Okay. Thanks, Sarita. So now, here you are, and you had a story. You told a story that enabled you to get a completed staff work done, CSW done, to leave the base. So let's just get right into it as to how that went and what that CSW was about.
Okay, the CSW was to go to Los Angeles, and I said my father, who was antagonistic to Scientology, so I knew that it would be giving me a little bit of more push to go in so that it wouldn't cause a PR flap. We were trained on how to handle any sort of communication about that people would be wondering about us, and we were drilled and billed on handling antagonistic people. Anyway, so I said he was coming, he wasn't. And I also said I had an eye appointment. I wore glasses, probably never got any sort of medical help or any help on that at all. I had to pay for it myself. So I had my bonus, and I told them I plan to use my bonus to buy myself glasses because I needed them. I couldn't see very well. I had very poor vision. Anyways, my CSW got approved. And now it's go time. The end of the day happened. It was nighttime about 10:30. The run leaves at 11. I was at the Del Sol building, which is about, I'd say, what do you think? 3 football fields from OGH, the old Gilman House. I ran maybe 2 football fields.
Yeah, maybe 2 football fields. Yeah.
I was a kid. Everything's bigger when you're a kid, by the way.
And I know. And by the way, that story she told about going to see her father and getting eyeglasses, that's what the Church of Scientology calls a short story or an acceptable truth. An acceptable truth is a lie. But in this case, it was survival to tell that because she was potentially going to gain her freedom. So with that acceptable truth being approved,
It took a lot to decide that I was going to be known as a degraded being, that I was never going to be accepted at the church again, that I was never going to go be part of it again. Like I figured I would be on my own. I had to decide that was okay and I could do it. So
yeah.
anyways, I went forward. I ran top speed to the OGH on the back side.
That is about 2 football fields. You're right.
Yeah. So got in the house. My dorm had about 9 women in it. My room that I stayed in, which was basically the dining room and the living room of the building. Well, yeah. But there was 3 tiers of bed, bunks, 3 tiers high. All that I owned was in one box. It was a trunk my mom had sent me, and I'd say it was about 2 feet by 1 foot, and then 1.5 feet deep. That's it. That's as much space as I was allotted to have all my belongings. Not that anybody didn't go through them. Also, you couldn't lock anything up. You had no privacy in anywhere there. So I rushed in. It's dark and people are already secured. So I had no light and I had to go to my box and pick what was I going to take with me. And I actually don't think I planned that ahead because I didn't actually think I'd go through with it. I was super scared. This was a terrifying thing to do. It just the sweat, the feeling of stress and angst that I had that something could go wrong any second along this plan. And then when I got caught, what was I going to do? And I knew I'd be ending up on the RPF, which is something I said, I will never be on the RPF. I will never do that.
Right.
That was too degrading for me. Anyways, I grabbed my music box. I had a boom box at the time, and I grabbed 1 cassette. It was Pete Townshend's White City. And I grabbed my only 2 forms of ID that had my picture. Actually, just my picture was my Sea Org ID from SEMO Int. And I had an IAS membership, lifetime membership card.
Wow.
With my name on it. Ironic, isn't it? Anyway, but I didn't have ID. They didn't give me ways. You don't have methods. So that's what I had. I grabbed that, and I only had the clothes that I was wearing and a jacket. I ran back to the Del Sol and then down the pathway across the highway and ran top speed to MCI where the run was picking up at 11. And I think I made it there. The van wasn't there yet, and I made it there. There were about 8 to 10 other people waiting to get on the van. Now I got to describe the van is a white church van, and this was in the 80s. So the white church, it wasn't a modern white church van. It was one of the older ones. And the seats are those benches. So there were 3 rows of benches and then the front seat. So technically you would put 4 in the back, then 3, or then 2, or 3, 2, and 2. But but there were so many people, it was going to have to be 5, 3, 3, and then the front seat. And so I looked around and I saw all the people that were going to ride on the van. And I'd like to remind the whole world that I was a scrub. I had no status. I was a petty officer, maybe petty officer 2nd class. No one really paid attention to me. And that was one of the reasons I really hated it there. You just don't have friends. And I don't know if that matters to people, but it mattered to me. When you're 16.
Of course.
Anyway.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I just hate that this happened.
That's really okay, honey.
It pisses me off that my life got there. Anyways, I'm not there now. I'm going to move on. So.
Thank God you're not there. Thank God. That's all I have to say. And I commend you for your bravery to come on and tell your story.
Yeah.
So just.
Well, thanks. So.
You got a friend here. I'm your friend.
I feel that. I do. And I have friends now too. But you don't have them back then. So you're scared. I'm scared shitless. And I want to leave. And anyways, I see all these people way above me on the org board. And, in the Sea Org, everybody seems to feel that they're the most important person on the earth. And so status is a big thing there. And when you don't have any, you're the last choice. You know what I mean? So, sorry. So the people that were there, I knew the only shot I had to get on the van was to take that worst seat. And we all know what the worst seat on the church van is. It's the furthest from the front, that one last seat all the way in the back.
Right.
So if you needed to get out, every single person in the van basically had to get out of your way to get out.
It's true. It's a hell of a seat they have,
Yeah. And so that's what I did. I jumped. I volunteered to take that seat, and I got in the van first. And I had my boom box and my just a little purse with my ID, and I scooched in the corner, and there was going to have to be 5 people. So, and I was a pretty chubby 16-year-old, so I scooched over as far as I could squeeze myself in to be like vapor, to be like invisible. That was my goal.
I know that's a good way to put it. That you were being invisible.
I needed to just blend into the plan of leaving the base on the run, because I knew that was going to be the only way, because I didn't actually really even know where I was to hitchhike. They guarded everything, and when the right people came on the highway, they were watched, so there was no way to even plan. Plus, I didn't have anybody to call. I had nobody to call to begin with. So
wow.
So we get in the van, all squeezed in, and in the Sea Org, also another thing is people cuss a lot and smoke a lot. And
oh yeah,
I didn't really grow up cussing a lot that I know of. I found one of my diaries where that is conflicting, but I didn't have a big potty mouth. I still don't, but a lot of people do, and I knew that kind of came with their self-importance. So.
Yeah.
When we got in the van, rolled towards the guard gate, I'm perspiring. I'm so, the only word is stressed out, which is not a Scientology word. But I was sweating, and I could smell fear that I felt. I could smell it on me. And
wow.
I hope that the people by me couldn't tell that I was just terrified. The van has to stop at the gate, and everybody that's in the van has to be checked on the restricted list. I was on the restricted list. I blew it, and I didn't have my stats up. So I was reported on the restricted list, which means if you're on the R list, you're not allowed to leave the base no matter what. It doesn't matter. My CSW meant nothing to security. Security's job was to stop people from leaving. And
right.
And I knew I was on the R list, which is why I took that seat in the very, very back, because of exactly what happened. We got to the window, and the security guard went away with the list, the bill of, I guess they call them bill of lading, or it's just the list of all the stuff in the van. Because behind us, by the way, was all the communication, the international external communication, CSWs, all the international management communication is in the back of that van.
Right.
With people. So we're transporting a lot. And security guards came back. I'm sick, sweating, and he pokes his head and he looks in and he says, "Sarita Alvarez." And I knew it. It was it. I'm out. He said, "You're on the R list. She's on the R list. She has to get out of the van." And I thank God I sat in that back corner, because you could, every single person was pissed at me, because now I have added, I'm super dev T, develop traffic. Yeah. They're all going to have to get out of the van so I can get out. And my boss, the COPE officer, said he he was, I guess, high enough up there. He got the front seat. And so he was sitting in the passenger seat with the driver. And
what was his name?
Larry Jacobs.
Larry Jacobs. Okay, you'll remember that name.
Yes, Larry Jacobs. I want to send him a Christmas card. Some things happen for a reason, Larry. I don't know. Sorry. And so I decided, so I knew that this would be a hassle. And sure enough, it was. Everybody was cussing and pissed at me. And here I am, this scrub on the bottom of the org board. I'm so low, and I'm causing all of these important people this hassle of what I must have added, would have added 5 minutes to their.
Oh yeah, that's the end of the world. I mean, when you're that important, that's the end of the world, you know?
Yeah, you have to. So Larry heard it, and I'm his junior, and he said to the security guard, "I'll vouch for her."
That
And
was it.
that was it. He vouched for me. Right away I thought, you just made the worst choice, because he's going to get in so much trouble for that.
Yeah, but thank God he made that choice.
For me, yeah, thank God he did. And so we buttoned up the van. They took off into the darkness on the old Gilman Highway. I'm headed towards Los Angeles. It was pitch black, 11
Mm-hmm.
p.m. I remember driving on the freeways, and I don't remember which ones that we took, but and they took different routes, by the way, so that you couldn't, because they figured they were being followed. They're so paranoid, and they make you paranoid. So I'm paranoid for a different reason. I'm paranoid now that someone's going to figure out that I'm not coming back. And we got to Los Angeles. I remember looking out the window, trying to figure my plan, because I really didn't think that I would go this far, that I would make it. Like, I felt excited, but then terrified at the same time that I'm still going to get caught. Once they figured out I'm not coming back, they're going to send the dogs out to find you. And I knew that was the case. So when we got to LA, we stopped at Bridge Publications, which is where the van dropped everybody off, right by, and then IEC was on the other side, but the executives dropped there. Anyways, the other reason that's important is because there was a payphone in the BPI foyer area. Thank goodness, because I called a taxi, and I had my boombox, and it was just becoming daylight, dawnish, so it was kind of light out. And I remember standing on the steps looking out at the taxi when it showed up, and again thinking, I can't believe I'm this far. I can't believe it. I'm in. I can't turn back now. I have to go forward. Got in the taxi. I just had been to Santa Monica before, so I said, take me to Santa Monica. I didn't have another idea. Went to the Santa Monica Pier, and he dropped me off at the Santa Monica Pier with my stuff. I got out and I walked towards the ocean, and there were people there here and there, but not a lot of people. At dawn on Santa Monica Beach, type of people that are there aren't the people with homes and jobs and lives that are savory. Let's put it that way. So here I am. I'm one of them, and I'm sitting on the beach. And just as the sun was coming from behind, there's a big set. There's like a cliff, and the sun was coming around. I'm just sitting there trying to figure out what to do next, and I see two men, big guys, like security-looking kind of guys, coming towards me, like direct, like sand, and they're beelining it to me. And I thought, now I'm caught. They figured it out. But how? I mean, I didn't think, how could they possibly know at this point? How could they?
Yeah.
But I knew that they might know. So I was a full-on withhold the whole time. And those guys came to me. They were not in the Sea Org. They were not Scientologists. And they asked me if I needed a job, if I needed work. And if you're out looking for people that need work at dawn, the work is the child abduction, is the child sex trades, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm way out of my league. We don't talk like that. People don't come and talk like that to you in the Sea Org in Scientology. I don't understand what they're saying. And then they said what they were saying, that they, if I needed a job, and I was so scared. I said, no, of course I don't need a job. And they said, well, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm waiting. And then I saw some lady or runner running with her dog along the pier, along the walkway section. I ran as fast as I could over, as though I was going to be with her. And that's who I was with, so they would leave me alone. Went straight.
And by the way, you had a lot of cash in your pocket, didn't you?
I did. I had my bonus, and it was the Christmas bonus. We got a Christmas bonus, So normally my pay was $16 or $21 a week, depending on whose birthday it was. They would take $5 from me of my pay to pay for a birthday. And also you pay for all your personal stuff with your money. So I had a load of cash. I think I had $700 in my pocket.
Oh boy.
So
Okay, so you ran to the lady. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make that point that you weren't penniless at all.
No, I had money. I had I had it with my plan. When we got the bonus, I guess that's kind of when I started my plan, because I had resource to get away, or to live anyway. I figured I could live.
Yeah.
So I went to the Santa Monica Pier, and there was a hotel there, and it was a okay hotel, and it's not there anymore. I think it's been torn down, but I got a room there, and what a feeling to go into a room that isn't filled with bunk beds. I mean, for 2 or 3 years now, I think I've been in the Sea organization.
Yeah.
I have no personal space. I have no privacy. I have nothing belongs to me really. And I'm in charge of everything. So I watched TV, Ron. I was so excited to watch TV. Haven't watched TV in years. And that's where I saw an ad for a train, and the Amtrak train. And I decided that's my plan. I'm going to Grand Central Station tomorrow. I called and made sure I could get to Ohio. So I went to Grand Central Station in a taxi. Meanwhile, that's expensive to go to the country. And I think so I bought my ticket, and again, I'm looking around now. It's the next day. And I'm sure that they have been alerted that I'm not coming back, because I was supposed to be back on the night run. I dropped off in the morning, and I was supposed to come back on the night run. So I didn't show up for the run. And it would have been muster now by the next day, where they would have found out that I'm not there and I'm not in my berthing, because if you're not at muster, they'll go hunt you down and find out where you are.
Right.
And that's what made me choose to take a sleeper car. So I bought a ticket in a sleeper car to Chicago so that I could see anybody coming and going, because I was so scared that they were chasing me and they would be on the train.
Right.
Like as though they were allowed to come and take me anywhere, like I actually believed that they could do that they were allowed to come and take me, like put me back wherever they wanted me to be. I didn't know that. I just didn't know. And it just kept the fear in me to keep going. I got to Naperville or Chicago, and I had a friend who lived in Naperville. Her name is Susan. She was a friend from Columbus, Ohio, and I called her. And that's when you remembered phone numbers, by the way, in your head. You didn't need to use your phone. Everything was after. So I called her and told her I needed to, if I asked her if I could stay at her house or come visit. And she was like a little bit weirded out that why am I calling out of the blue? She picked me up. She got her mom to drive to Chicago from Naperville and took me in. When we went and ate, I ate so much food. We went to a pizza parlor. I was starving.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I was chubby other than puberty. I mean, I was just chubby all the time and didn't fit into anything. But, and in Santa Monica, I did stop and get myself a different shirt, because all I had was my Sea Org uniform. So I wanted to blend in. So I bought myself these hot red pants and a bright yellow shirt. I'm not sure what I was thinking. That was my purchase.
Wow.
The train stopped one time, and I bought a pair of Indian earrings. I still have them. There was a person, I have the earrings still. But anyways, at Susan's house is where I thought I got to get my next plan together. They hadn't found me yet. It's now been 3 days. On the third night, Susan and I were talking, and I told her I had run away from Scientology. That's all she understood. It's Scientology. It's all Scientology. It's not, I ran away from the Sea Org. And so then you have to explain all the different, like how convoluted and confusing it is within now that you're in. And her mother called up and said, there's a phone in her room. And her mother said, there's a phone call for you, for me. And I'm like, that's impossible. That's impossible. Nobody knew I was there. How would they possibly know I was there? Come to find out that I had not taken with me my address book that I had as when I was before the Sea Org, and it had every friend's number in it and they made took my sister in a room because she was up at the base also. Not that we hung out. They put her in a room and they made her start calling every single phone number in that book.
Wow.
To hunt me down. And she didn't do it willingly. She was really pissed actually that I didn't take her with me because she didn't want to be there either. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that for 10 years. I did not know that after what had happened. But she found me, and I was told I have to come back to Los Angeles. Then I called my mom, thinking now that everybody knows I can go home. No, my mom her bridge was threatened now. I am a runaway from the int base, degraded being now, and my stepfather hating me. I'm going to be a suppressive person, most likely, declared. And so I was kind of hoping Susan would let me stay at her house because I didn't have a family now, and I knew I didn't have a family.
Yeah.
Now it was for sure. And my mom was so mad at me, and she put me on a bus, and I got to Columbus, Ohio, where she picked me up at midnight. Downtown Columbus, Ohio is not a good place to be. Late, and I think she was late on purpose this time to let me simmer and feel upset and scared because it's very scary down there. When she picked me up, she didn't say a word to me. We got in the car. She didn't speak one word the whole drive from downtown to our house. And I didn't either because I didn't know what to say. I kind of was wondering if I was going to get kicked out of the family because that's what would happen.
Yeah.
And my dad wasn't around, so I didn't know what I was going to do. So my only option was to go back. And I knew I didn't have any other option.
I see that.
She wasn't going to let me stay at home. She was going to make me go back. And she did. She freaking did, Ron. When we got home at our house, my mother had a Sea Org member. They were sitting at our table, at our dining room table, waiting for me.
Wow.
I was the only other word to use. The word that works the most is I was fucked.
Yeah.
As a kid, I didn't even say those words.
I'll tell you, there's such a bunch of rotten bastards. It's
well,
I hear these stories, and
I'm nothing
yeah.
at the time. But all of that happened, and I have a podcast where I'm going through all this on my podcast. It's called 4 Decades in Scientology. And what I've talked to you about on your podcast or in your video here is just the first decade. It isn't even all. And that's what's so wacko. I'm not in anymore. I'm nowhere near.
Wait, how do people get on your podcast? You got to give them how to get on it.
I'm pretty much on every platform. I'm not going for being like the biggest or anything, so I just kind of produce stories. They're 15 minutes to 30 minutes of my history, and I have about 4 filing cabinets full of my mother's documents, and I have about 10 tubs. She probably of photos that she took and of her documentation of her life, and she wrote letters and kept letters. So I just find things that remind me, and then I talk about them on my podcast.
Okay, but how do people get to it? What do? They put in some name?
Oh, sure. Just type in 4 Decades in Scientology, and you'll see it's there. And my name, it might even help, Sarita Shoemaker. That's my name now.
4 Decades in Scientology.
Yeah.
Wait, the number 4 or the letter 4?
Good question. FOUR. 4. The word 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So
good. We got to make sure that people go to it and see it, because this is a heart-wrenching story to me. I'll be honest with you. And the more people that get exposed to their abuses of their fellow human being, the better it's going to be for everybody. Just, save their goddamn life in the end. Don't get involved with these people.
Yeah. And if and the person that helped me get out was my husband, my current husband. His name is Randy, and he helped me see the insanity of what was going on. And truly, the way I got out was my mom died. That's how I got out.
Wow.
That was the
So
only way.
wait a minute. So you had these two Sea Org people there. Did they take you back to LA? What was the
One
story
person.
right after that?
Okay,
Okay,
once remember, it was a woman, very kind lady, and she convinced me and my mother to put me on a plane back to Los Angeles. So my mother escorted me on the plane. She bought 2 tickets to make sure that I would go back to Los Angeles. And I went back to Los Angeles. And that's where I was put on the decks. There was a thing called the DPF. So there wasn't the RPF, it was the DPF. And I was
the Dex Project Force, right?
Yeah. And that was in Los Angeles. I worked, my space was next to the garbage dump that we're on Catalina, where the entrance of the garbage trucks come in and out. That's where we stayed. That was my space until I stopped resisting. You have to stop resisting. And when you do, you become, and then you have to do lower conditions. I had to do tons of amends and make up liabilities. And I wrote Larry Jacobs a letter, by the way, in my liability formula. I had to make up the damage one has done. And he was somebody that I knew I had screwed over really bad.
Yeah.
I also wrote to Lisa Schroer. I wrote to Mark Yeager. I gave my liability formula to every exec that I could remember, and I got approval to come back into the group. Lucky me.
Yeah, that's like getting a ticket to go back to hell, huh?
And get the front seat.
Yeah. So continue. Let's get the end result here. How did it all turn out then? Because you're here in front of me. This is wonderful.
Well, I don't want to take all your podcasting time, but it's 3 more decades, Ron. The next decade of my life, half of it I spent in the Sea organization, in the golden era productions, selling tapes and books and having a great time, where I met a guy who was super fun, and he was not in the Sea Org. His name was John. And I'd never had a boyfriend, so I don't know anything about this department. And we did go out on 2 dates, and then I got married.
Wow.
And, yeah. He was not Sea Org because he said he was ineligible, but he worked for the church in other services. And so he was real fun. He's funny. We're friends, and he's a great person. I know he is working really hard. He's very successful. And he's not in the Sea Org, or not in the Scientology anymore either. Thank God.
Yeah.
So we have, then after about being married about 9 months, I got pregnant, and that was a huge flap. So here I am again, causing shit to happen that people don't like. So
yeah.
I am pregnant. And at the time that you are not allowed to be pregnant. If you're pregnant, you're unethical, first of all. That's the first thing. Your priorities are wrong. But I was working at Bridge Publications building, but as gold. And my boss was Lori Modris. And I will never forget the day that Lori pulled me into the office across from the sales department. And she knew that something was up. And when she pulled the string, because she has 2 kids, and she pulled the string and found out I was pregnant, she was like, are you kidding me? You're going to have this baby? You need to not have this baby, because let me just spell out what you're going to be doing if you have your child. And at the time, you were going to be going to a small and failing org, and you were going to have your baby and raise your baby at the same time as working Sea Org hours and helping create Scientology in some small and failing org. And I did not want to do that. So I petitioned every single executive to stay. I begged to stay in Los Angeles. And because also my husband wasn't married, or excuse me, wasn't in the Sea Org. So we're kind of a tricky situation. If I was in the Sea Org, they could have just deployed me like they did any other person that got pregnant.
Yeah.
That didn't want to have an abortion. But Lori's insisting on, and really tried to, railroad me into deciding that this was the right thing for me.
But wait a minute.
Goodness, I didn't
You broke up. What did she want you to do?
Lori wanted me to terminate my pregnancy and put my priorities on the Sea Organization and clearing the planet and being a good Sea Org member.
Yeah. Okay. So look, just so we can get to the point where you are now, you had that with a little daughter, right?
I had a son. I have a son.
Oh, son. Okay.
And then my husband got declared a suppressive person. I got pregnant again, despite I didn't tell anybody at the time, but we were seeing each other. But he was sent to Palm Springs. But the bottom line is I got experience in working in business. I got a job for a Scientologist, and I worked for 10 years at this company. And they hired me pregnant with my son. Mary Helt and Henning Helt hired me. Mary Helt hired me. Thank goodness I knew Letty, their kid, right? I guess that's, somebody, it kind of helps. So that helped me. And I was a hard worker. I had the Sea Org mentality, working 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. for pennies, and it didn't bother me. So I did it. That experience then I became experienced in the world of business, and I love business. I love marketing, and I love all that comes with it in running businesses. And today I took a left-hand turn, and I became an insurance agent. So that's what I'm doing now.
Fabulous.
Colorado. I love it. It's helping people, but it's not helping them in a bad way. It's helping them in a good, I think, not everybody agrees that insurance is good. I think it's good, and I understand spreading the risk. So it's my brain now. It's a different brain.
That's good. No, because I was raised in an insurance family. My dad had an insurance brokerage. So I'm familiar with it. And they did help a lot of people. Yeah. And I remember one thing, because in those days, this is back in the 40s and 50s, when you had a claim, you went right to see your insurance agent. You didn't have a claims adjuster. And here was the standard line. A guy would come in and he said, well, I wrecked my car. And my brother would start taking down the claim, or my dad. And they would invariably say, what happened? Did your brakes fail? And the guy said, yes. Every accident was caused by the guy saying that his brakes failed. He could have been drunk. He could have been not paying attention. But no, it was all their brakes failed. So
there's that. And Ron, there's one more thing I learned, and that is that there's a really, really great set of golf clubs that everybody has in their trunk when they get rear-ended and they get ruined, or they get stolen, excuse me. There's some like expensive set of clubs that always disappears. Oh, that's the one.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So now that's what you're doing now, and you have a couple daughters. You have a couple daughters too?
I have. Well, my husband and I came together with 2 children. So I have a son, Jordan, and a daughter, Claire, and both of them are doing great. They're successful. They're not in Scientology. They were raised. That's an old second 2 decades. I had kids and I raised my children. I just kept the hamster wheel going on my own kids, and I have a lot of regrets on that. My daughter is the person who pushed me to start a Patreon page, write a book and about what happened to me, and then also get a podcast going. So my daughter Claire is the one who inspired me to get this podcast that I'm doing.
Wow, this is great. I'm glad to see you doing well. And it is a hell of a story. But mainly, I wanted to get to some type of wrap up so that people could see, after all that baloney you went through, and heartrending, raising, and just, I remember in the earlier stories you talking about being a little kid dumpster diving for food. This breaks my heart. But you're doing well now, which is the important thing. And I'm happy for you.
Great.
And how did they get on your podcast again?
It's 4 Decades in Scientology. And you can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher. I use Buzzsprout. Great place if you want to start podcast, Buzzsprout, really good, because basically I just write it, produce it. I do it all by myself. So it's not as, it's hillbilly in some cases, I guess, but that sometimes gives it flavor. I don't know.
I think people want that. They don't want these slick, polished, every word is measured against some marketing expert. To hell with that. Let's just hear it from the heart. I think that's what people want to hear. I could be wrong. I reserve the right to be wrong, but I think that's what people want. Well, Sarita, I'll tell you, this has been a real pleasure. I'm glad we did this last one to wrap it up, though.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Hopefully I'll stop thinking about the history and just start, that's another reason to tell it. Just get it out of your head. Get it out, get it out, get it out.
Yeah.
Get it out.
And you help a lot of people by doing this because they can see that it's just not one person who has an abuse story. There's tons of them. And, people have got to come to the realization that Church of Scientology is a cult. They're not a church by any means, by any bending of that word church. And I think one of the major things that disqualifies them is there's no compassion with them. There's none at all. And it's a terrible way to get experience on life, but it happened to you. It happened to me. I lost my family. I lost my 2 daughters, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I still have my one son that I speak to every day, Ronnie, and my granddaughter, Jenna, and her kids. But it's been wonderful talking to you.
Isn't that that's so special? You don't realize how special those connections are in your family.
Yeah, that's right.
Until you don't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, you're right. Anyway, I think that brings us to a nice conclusion here, and a happy one, a little bit bittersweet, but nevertheless, I'm happy for you, and I wish you the best in the world I hope you become one of their top agents and make a ton of money. I'm sure you will, because
I want to be really successful. I don't want to not be successful. So I love it though. So that's a good part. Getting up and boss rocks. I have a great boss. So it's a good thing to get up and come to work. It's not work when it's like that. So
I know that. That's wonderful. So again, I remind you, if you want to help the ongoingness of this program, you can go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com, and you can become a patron or a contributor to PayPal. So for Sarita, who has been the most enjoyable 3 interviews for me, I got to tell you, I'm so happy you come on. I'm going to say I wish all of you the best. All of you out there, I wish you a happy, successful life. God bless all of you. Sarita, you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Goodbye, everybody. Come hear me on my podcast. I'd love it.
There you go. Till the next time, I'm Ron Miscavige. This has been Life After Scientology. Bye-bye for now.